often our core values are giving yourself permission to look at your life and examine what we choose to do, love to do. Your life actually is demonstrating your highest values, and it's actually giving yourself permission to align your daily actions with your authentic self. Every moment in your life is happening for you, not to you.
There's purpose in all pain. There's a gift in every challenge. Who you become, this challenge, is exactly who you're meant to become.
Give yourself permission to create an inspiring life out of design and not duty.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Flip Your Mindset. I am your host, Stacey Uhrig, and today's guest is Donna Parker. Let me tell you guys a little bit about Donna. Donna's a seasoned therapist. She's a life coach, she's an educator, and a speaker with over 25 years in the mental health field. As a founder of Evolve Coaching, Donna has dedicated her career to guiding individuals and families through transformative journeys, helping them heal from within and align with their authentic selves. So if you listen to this podcast, you know that's in alignment with what we talk about here. And she delves into the significance of understanding one's true values and how this awareness can lead to a more fulfilling life. So welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me today, Stacey. I really appreciate your time.
Good to have you. So, you and I were talking in the background a little bit, and I'm wondering if we can start off by kind of defining the difference between a core belief and a core value, because I often talk to my clients about how their core beliefs really form their thoughts or influence their thoughts. And kind of are the lens through which they see themselves, others, and world around them. And I'm wondering if you see a difference between core values and core beliefs.
Well, let me just share the way that when I talk about values, and then you can kind of tell me, based on your perspective, the way that you use those terms, and what that represents for you. So many of us think of core values is always be nice, don't be mean, always be kind, don't be cruel, always be generous, don't be stingy. And what's interesting about that is in doing that, we're actually trying to live this one side polarized life. And I perceive that actually one of the sources of human suffering is trying to obtain and seek and gain happiness. Because in the effort to try to achieve happiness, we're actually bringing in some of the most depressed people, because we're actually meant to be both. We're two-sided individuals. We're going to be kind. We're going to be cool. It's, are you actually aligning with my highest values, or are you threatening my highest values? And maximum growth, develops on the border of challenge and support. So we're meant to have both in our life, but so often many are looking for all roses, and they're not appreciating the gifts and the wisdom of the pain and the purpose and the challenges or the feedback that life offers us. So I just wanted to start and clarify that. But often our core values are giving yourself permission to look at your life and examine what we choose to do, love to do, desire to do, the things in your life that you will constantly, your life is demonstrating it. Unfortunately, most of us just live in moral imperatives based on shoulds and by preachers, teachers, coaches, right? Like growing up as a young child, we learn, okay, this is how I stay safe. This is how I get valued. If I show up so that becomes often many of us are living based on shoulds or injected from our childhood. So it's giving individuals permission to get clear, like, what is my life actually demonstrating?
I love that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, no, please. I'll expand a little, and then I'd love to hear what you think, because your life actually is demonstrating your highest values, and it's actually giving yourself permission to align your daily actions with your authentic self, not based on what a good wife or a good, a daughter, mother, what would I love to do? What would I choose to do? What am I inspired to do? And I have, there's actually a series of questions that individuals can ask themselves to sort of get in touch and go, if you're lacking meaning, if you're lacking fulfillment, if you're lacking purpose, often we're living a life out of desperation versus inspiration, and living a life out of duty versus design. And so giving ourselves permission to go, what do I actually feel more inspired when I talk about? When do I get a tear of inspiration? Where do I guide conversations? Where do I feel my time? What I've order and organization no one has to remind me to do? Where will I spend my money, right? So there again, there's a series of questions and your life will demonstrate your highest values. And I'll just share and then I'll turn it over to you. No one has to remind me to speak right and teach, right? Like no one has to remind me to order an organization around my clients and my podcast. Like I love inspiring conversations with people like you. I love the movers, the shakers, the ones that want to put a ripple effect and start, impacting and changing the globe. I mean, no one has to remind me to do that. No one has to remind me to wake up and work out, right? Like health, beauty, fitness. That's been a core value since I've been a little girl. No one has to remind me to like follow up with individuals that I have meaningful connections. So it's looking at actually what your life is demonstrating and then giving yourself permission to say yes to what you'd love to do. But as far as cooking, nope. I'm going to outsource. I'm going to delegate. Cleaning, outsource, delegate. I'm going to spend more time in creating content and doing what I love and let individuals that are inspired to do that. And I'm going to outsource low priority and give myself permission to live in high priority because so many women are in this mode and men. I mean, I don't know what your population is, but they're in this, I'm going to go to this party because I don't want to disappoint, or I should go to this family dinner. So they're living, it's catching where we masturbate and should all over ourselves versus giving ourselves permission to create a life that's actually in alignment with what's meaningful and inspiring and gives us purpose.
Where do you think the shoulds start?
Their moral imperatives, like when you look at it, Stacey, I mean, we are domesticated since in the womb. Epigenetic tags from family history. I study that in our physiology. So we are, I would say, literally, we are up against the mechanicality. If you look at our physiology, we are wired to seek pleasure, avoid pain. Because if we didn't chameleon and fit in with the herd, we literally died, right? Like if
100%.
you look, right? So you look at the neuroscience, and so it starts. We're again hardwired, to fit in, camouflage, fit in, and so people are often doing that at a cost to themselves, and they're not be able to tap in and listen to whispers of the soul, and then they have to get feedback. And which is the gift of some of the pain, right? Then that life will constantly is guiding us in every moment to get us in alignment with our authentic self. So it's actually really beautiful, but yeah, that's where I perceive it's our physiology. And then it's, as a little kid, the second we start walking, it's no's, shoulds, don't touch that. Don't like, we're against constantly getting feedback from our
Mhm.
environment. The second we start becoming interdependent, and starting to get curious and start becoming our own person. We're constantly domesticated from day one with
And
what we should or shouldn't do.
I love the fact that you're using that term domesticated because I often am asked to moderate books for different groups and different community groups, and we're gonna be doing the 4 agreements this week.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so anybody that's ever read the 4 agreements knows that he uses that term a lot.
Mhm.
And really
Mhm.
what we're talking about is
Mhm.
similar to what you just said, is we're programmed to listen and to
Mhm.
accept everything that's telling us as being true. And so, you know, I've said this before on the podcast, but for a news listener, when we're so reliant on other people, let's just say caregiver, for survival
Mhm.
in our earliest years when we cannot rely
Mhm.
on ourselves and we're relying on them to meet our needs well enough. And so we're
Mhm.
forming this bond and this trust. And then all of a sudden, we're starting to become more aware of language, let's say, and we're in a stroller and somebody stops and says, "This is grass and this is green and this is the sky and this is blue." You're going to believe them because the bond has been there. I've trusted you to change my diaper. I've trusted you to feed me. I've trusted you to keep me alive. So what you're telling me must be true. But then when that is not used impeccably and somebody says you're too much or you talk too much or you're not good enough in school or you could be doing that better or you should be
Mhm.
doing that differently, we also start to believe that as well. Because if you're telling me the
Mm.
grass is green and you've met all my other needs, why wouldn't I believe that this is true as well? And so we get
Mhm.
domesticated, programmed, conditioned in the simplest ways. Nobody's necessarily, there's no, I mean, there are bad actors, but
Mhm.
for the most part, we can kind of assume there's no malintention. It's just that a lot of times people are sharing with us what was shared with them.
Exactly, and that's the intergenerational
No
family,
doubt.
right? And that's the shoulds, and that's the that's where those moral imperatives, right? We figure out pretty quickly, "Oh, I get loved if I show up in the way that society values." And because the part of ourself, the amygdala, really runs your life, and the executive center is not fully online until we're 25. So, there's also the part of our amygdala that is looking for pleasure, trying to avoid pain because the pleasure when the amygdala is the animal. So the animal was looking for, the prey. We want to eat the prey that gives us pleasure, and we want to avoid the predator. We want to avoid being eaten. So all of that really does feel life threatening until the executive center comes online. So it's really fascinating when you actually start studying that and look at the hard wiring and really what we're up to in the mechanicality of our culture.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, listen, this is everything you're speaking to. I speak about the amygdala often on this podcast. And, what is a threat and what's not a threat, and what feels like a threat is the threat,
Mhm.
right? So even
Mhm.
if it's just
Mhm.
perceived, and you said it, and
Mhm.
I've said it before too, even being outside of the herd, being outside of the group, feeling like you're a part of feels like a threat because
Yep.
we are hardwired from very, very early years on
Mhm. Mhm.
to be contained within the
Mhm.
commune, within the
Mhm.
tribe, safety in numbers. So if
Right,
even
and
right? Go ahead.
no, I just wanted to absolutely agree, and it's really amazing because when I work with some of my clients who, didn't fit in, it's often the black sheep, or the ones that even felt rejected in weren't fitting into the typical, society norm or shoulds or look the part, act the part, whatever the judgment was, it was really often a preparation, right? So I also have this belief system that every moment in your life is happening for you, not to you.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
And so that's one of the things I love to do is really help people become aware and present to the magnificence of the divine hidden order in every moment that's actually happening for you and not to you. But so often we take on this victim villain mentality, and I can tell you're agreeing, which I love, right? Like, or you have a similar belief system. I would love to hear more. But that victim just keeps us perpetuating in that victim story. And so it's also a lot of the psychology that's out there is cause and effect and just cut people out of our life versus actually helping them see how this, what we want to call our greatest villain in our movie or challenge is an invitation,
No doubt.
for an opportunity as one of our greatest teachers.
I mean, I always say, I've been saying these phrases for a very, very long time. There's purpose in all pain. There's a gift in every
Mhm.
challenge.
Yeah.
And that life, I used to say life is a series of challenges divinely designed for you. And I
Yeah.
changed it a few years ago to life is a series of experiences divinely
Mhm.
designed for you,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because we're not really
Mhm.
in a position to say which ones are good and which ones are bad. Because
Mhm.
often it is the ones that are the challenges, the ones that
Mhm.
bring us the greatest pain, bring us down to our knees, that
Mhm.
have the biggest lessons. And so if you look at life from a more expansive view, which is very hard to see when you're in that victim role, or you're
Mhm.
still in a protective scarcity body language, like
Mhm.
constantly like I need to be the victim because I know how to be the victim. So it leaves me feeling like I have more control, and that
Mhm.
leaves me feeling safer because I know this space. It feels
Totally.
vulnerable to be expansive, right? So if we can look at life to get outside of it and take this 360-degree drone view
Mhm.
and say, if I had to look at my life from the outside, from an observer role, what is it that I would see?
Mhm.
And who did I become because of that? Not to be defined by our circumstances, but what did I have to harness internally to survive it? What resilience muscles did I build? And I agree. I do believe that life is designed for you,
Mhm.
not against you. And I've said that for a very long time. People have a hard time with that because
Mhm.
people have experienced a life-threatening illness or a life-changing,
Mhm.
accident, let's just say, or say they lost a loved one way too young. They take offense because they're seeing and hearing that through their own unhealed wound. But what I'm really saying is who you become
Mhm.
through this challenge is exactly who you're meant to become. And in this particular lifetime, a
Mhm.
massive challenge was required for you to lean into
Mhm.
people. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And one of the things I really, appreciate, and I'm writing in my book, The Self-Reflective Universe, is the other layer of this is, we come in and, we come in and we have to start dismembering parts of self to fit
No
in
doubt.
to the social construct, right? And so, and we learn quickly, like, okay, if I'm always nice, always patient, always understanding, or our pain, we try to be one-sided. Well, the truth is that if we are everything and we are one, and what I see in you and what I see in me, then you have reflective awareness, right? But because most individuals are trying to literally dismember parts of self and trying to be one-sided, they actually need to bring, when you study quantum physics and you look at the equity principle, Stacey Adams, they bring in the other side, right? So those challenges are actually, if I'm addicted to being admired and praised and liked, I literally will attract criticism, dislike, and rejection. Why? Because if I am so worried about being liked and what did they think of me and all the things that the mind and the story that it wants to run, then I can't be my authentic self. So life is constantly giving us homeostatic feedback so that we can get in alignment with our authentic self. So, I helped a woman become so grateful because she was in a relationship, and she was calling him a narcissist and violent, and had labeled him all of these things. And when we talked about it, I what became where she was like, wouldn't changed it and loved every moment of the experience, because what she realized is that she had been in a disempowered state in the dynamic. She was subordinating. She wasn't valuing herself. She wasn't prioritizing herself. She wasn't using her voice. And so she attracted someone, which is a disowned part of self, that wasn't valuing her, wasn't prioritizing her, wasn't giving her a voice, was literally mirroring the part of herself. Why? So she could step up into that, in this dynamic, into her worth, into her value, into this partnership. And she was so disempowered, it took a smack and a wake up call to do it. Am I condoning that? No, but what I'm helping women see, or individuals see, is the divine hidden order and the invitation and the opportunity. And what often most people will do is they'll cut the person out and then go bring on the next person. And then the pattern repeats.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that I encourage is the into me see is, where was she judging herself? Because what we see in others, we have three fingers pointing back at ourselves. So then when I actually walk women through narrowing down, what you see in them is also you. Who perceives you as emotionally unpredictable or volatility or violent? And by the end of it, she was able to see that she had also been hitting him. And, she started to own all the things that she had been seeing in him, so that she could see there was also the reflection in self. Again, not making it right or wrong or good or bad. And that's the hard thing we want. We want to get into the judgment of morality and seeing things as black and white, good or bad, instead of all of it gets to be true when we can look at it from full quantum. And
Mhm.
and some of those most challenges, and I'm not taking away the pain of really challenging experiences. Again, I've helped women be grateful for rapes, but it doesn't take away from the challenge and the pain, and I'm not condoning it. It's just getting them to the point that they were like, "Oh my gosh, I can absolutely appreciate that my life wouldn't have been the same without this," and see the terrific in the terrible. Because so often we're just focusing on the one side of events, and then those, again, the wisdom and the lessons have to keep coming back around.
Why do you think we naturally focus on the one-sided event? So we're constantly
Mhm.
focusing on what's happening in our view to us. Not why do we not see the for us piece? Where does that come in from a psychological standpoint, do you think?
We, for survival from animals, are wired to scan the environment for a threat,
Yeah.
for survival and safety. So we are going to have a false attribution bias to look for a predator in the environment. Why? Because when a predator is attacking, we're going to get eaten, right? So we're gonna constantly err on the side of the threat, right? Because what happens is when we're addicted to the prey and wanting to eat, that's why we're less afraid of the good, right? Because if we don't catch the prey, the positive, we're not gonna starve and die. So it all
Mhm.
goes back to evolution and the way we're hardwired to scan the environment for a threat, for survival. It's a survival strategy. So the beautiful thing about knowing that is knowing that any time that I'm in a real emotional reactivity or volatility, that it's an invitation to come back to breath, come back to self, come back to, because so that we can regulate the nervous system, so that that animal and the amygdala that wants to seek and avoid and judge and label better or worse, can actually get more into a rhythm, activating the mid prefrontal cortex, which is the executive center, so that we can breathe in, come back to the inspiration, the spirit within, and come back to breath, so that we can get in that head heart coherence, so that we can actually listen to our will matching divine will and letting that flow through us, versus literally being a reactive automaton mechanically through the mechanicality of our wiring, just seeking and avoiding and staying in this hamster wheel that starts to feel, quite frankly, really exhausting, which again all serves too. It's the thing that eventually catapults us to grow and move and change.
So I'm so curious, and this is such a great conversation. You've spent over 20 years in this mental health space. You've evolved. Have you evolved from doing therapy to coaching? Have you kind of created a bridge there?
It's interesting, Stacey. I'd be curious what that is, in your world, that question. But for me, I don't really care what you call me, right? I
I
don't
mean,
know how
quite
you feel about that. Like,
frankly,
I mean, because for some people, they want to call it a therapist. Great. For some people, I'm a consultant. For some people, I'm a life coach. I think the most important thing is who's in a resonance, because if someone is wanting to stay in a victim mindset, then and they don't want to be challenged on a new perspective. I mean, granted, I can hold space, because so much of that is we also want to create, especially when you're dealing with major trauma, right? Like, in order to activate, there has to be a container, to hold space, but it is someone that's ready to transform and transform their lives and transform their thinking. And the way to do that is, also being willing to be challenged and supported, which is where maximum growth occurs.
So tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about Evolve Coaching, your business. How do you hold space for people? What are they coming to and looking for?
No, I mean, since I've done this for 26 years, I don't know how you feel, but it also, the self-reflective universe, it's so magical. Like, I don't know about you, Stacey, but our clients often mirror parts of self too, right? And so many therapists out there, that are coming from a wounded place, are often trying to rescue disowned parts of themselves. And that is the part that then they get to be needed. And then it keeps the wounded healer and keeps the person dependent and keeps that that whole model going. And so the individuals that I'm inspired to work with, I mean, I have leaders, I have CEOs, I have, women that are in this midlife connection that are trying to figure out like, okay, if I'm not in this role, this not a mom, right? I'm not in this role of wife. I'm trying to navigate business. Like they sort of this wake up of like, okay, I had the family, the dream. I'm gonna be happy when I'm married with kids, the dog, the fence. And they're constantly, I think our culture is like, I'm gonna be happy when's. And then
Yeah.
there's sort of this invitation to wake up into self and give themselves permission to live an authentic life. But I'll say, like, I have done the gamut. I've done play therapy because I wanted to master the whole family system. So I do families, which but really on the micro level, families are just the same as a business, and the same as a collective. And even in our bodies, everything is a reflection. So I am inspired to work with many different clients and variety. I actually love the variety. I've worked with schizophrenia. I've worked with some major trauma, and then I've also worked with individuals on, creating multi-million dollar companies. So it's since I've been doing it so long, it's been really fascinating. It becomes a reflection of kind of what I'm up to. I worked, when I was going through my divorce, I was working with couple, it's like what I had learned, we expand into. And,
Well, we
and
always attract what it is that we have going on, right? So we're as a vibrational energy,
exactly.
wherever we're vibrating is tend to be what we're gonna attract more of.
Boom, drop the mic. Brilliantly stated. Brilliantly
Um,
stated. I can't agree more.
yes. So you mentioned questions that you ask people when you're
Mhm.
trying to help them get into this value discovery. What are some of those questions?
So one of the first questions is looking at where do you spend the majority of your time? And then some individuals will say, "Oh, I'm working." But there's something, what about their work do they love to do? What about it? It may not be the data entry, but what about it specifically are you inspired to do? Oh, well, I get a coach or I get to teach, so you take where they're spending their time, right? When they're spending their energy, like what conversations are you actually feeling, or what do you do in your life that you're feeling more energy, right? I think that's a huge sign. Like you're saying, who are you spending your time with? What conversations are you having? What's in alignment that you leave feeling more energized versus depleted? And what are you doing, or what are you talking about? Notice the tears, right? The tears of inspiration. So that's the space is one, the time is one, what makes you feel more energized. And then what does that represent to you? Where do you spend your money? And what does that represent to you? Is it on a house? Well, is that about because you love beautiful spaces, or is it because you really want a space for your family? So it's teasing it out a little bit further and going, and what does that represent? And this is the DeMartini method, value method determination, and people can find that on his website. It's quite brilliant. I've been just certified and trained under him for 14 years, and so it's one of the things that I bring into my practice with them.
Tell us a little bit about more about the DeMartini process.
Well, it's a
What it because some people might not be familiar with it.
Sure, sure. It's essentially asking quality questions that equilibrate the mind. So it's very similar to everything we're talking about, and it's trying to turn psychology into a science by understanding the laws of universal laws and principles, and helping people get to reveal the divine hidden order of what's actually present in every moment of your life. And so several of the questions are looking at one of the laws of reflection, and transparency is one of them, right? It's looking at, wow, so many of us, we're too proud, and we're looking down on individuals because we're too proud to see what we see in them is also in us. And then we have
Mhm.
deflective awareness, right? And then we're in the ego thinking we're above. And when I think I'm above, then I attract humbling circumstances because it's all about getting back into balance and equity. Or I'm too humble and I'm minimizing myself, which is again, I'm not being myself, looking up to someone. And then I'm too humble to admit what I see in them is in me. And anything we admire, we also are we are displaying or demonstrating in our own form. Nothing is missing. So, and then we will attract support, and so it's helping individuals give themselves permission to actually become themselves, because many individuals are like, Well, we can't love you for who you are if you don't become who you are. So that's one series of the question, is looking at the law of reflection and transparency. And then it's taking events that have happened in your life. We get a one-sided polarity that if it was felt good and it was positive, we want the dopamine. And the more addicted we get to that, the more we have to fantasy. We have to, like, if you've ever been infatuated with someone,
Mhm.
all you see is you have two eyes, I have two eyes. You like psychology, I like psychology. You study human behavior, you love universal laws. I mean, all you're gonna see is based on our perception, positive. And then if we've seen that with a partner, and then as time goes by, the things that we admire actually start to become the things that drive us crazy. Their intelligence, they become a know-it-all. They're physically attractive, they're getting attention from someone else. So the thing that we think is all positive eventually becomes both sides,
Mhm.
right? And so again, it's anytime I'm trying to be one-sided, I'm judging another polarity. So if I'm trying to be Buddha and calm and peaceful, I'm literally going to attract warring people around me, or angry people, because they're actually expressing my repressions to help me learn how to get into balance. And so it's helping individuals look at their life with a bird's eye view in the self-reflective universe, and seeing it full quantum, versus just being in that reactive space, judging things as good and bad, because that keeps us in those polarities and that keeps you in the swing. And it's going back and looking at an event or an individual, and there's a series of questions, again, that you see as absolutely terrible. But when you get a really present in the moment, because it's the only thing that you have to, like, almost go back into that moment, you can actually see that there was positives and negatives in every moment of our life, which then brings it into a more balanced state, a homeostatic.
You keep mentioning the quantum realm piece. How does this play into things like, say, The Secret or, say, Joe Dispenza's work, which both bring that in?
Well, you know, I love Joe. I study Joe. I've been to many. Have you been to any of his events,
I
or?
have not, but I have so many peers that have, and I have a client that's actually about to go to one,
Mhm.
soon.
Sure, sure. Um, and I think, like anything, any thought leader, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, right? I mean, one of the things that, um, I again, some of the downside to some individuals that take Joe's work is that then they have to be meditating to get into this calm state, or they create a fantasy and then they don't live up to it, and they haven't really learned how to, and then they come back even more depressed because they have unrealistic expectations. So again, I love Joe's work, and what I love about it, I'll say what I appreciate about it, is it's learning how to get really present in your body and present with each energy center. And what I loved is you learn how to create and attune to yourself, that you can actually feel the flow and energy, so that you're creating your own electromagnetic field. And what he does talk about a lot is when you get into sort of that energy of the void, right? Or the oneness and the wholeness, you know, it often, though, people want to, there's nothing to manifest from that state, because you feel so much wholeness in that state, right? Because often, sometimes for many people, or, they want the missing secret to the secret is they're in this wanting state. They're wanting this, and the very act of wanting keeps us in the wanting, versus
Mm.
actually seeing that nothing's missing in our life. So all of us have wealth. It just shows up in a different form, right? So I have a process that helps individuals own their form of wealth. Is it their intellectual property? Is it their beauty? Is it their mindset? Is it their social network? Is it their, but everyone has their form of wealth. They're just not seeing it because they're comparing themselves to someone else. And comparison is the thief of joy.
No doubt.
Right? And so again, I think there's pieces to everything, and there's an upside and a downside to everything. And so it's just the opportunity. And who is the other one you said? You said Joe, and you said,
The Secret.
oh, The Secret. I think the missing piece from The Secret is, a lot of individuals were like, "Oh, just cancel, cancel, only think positive thoughts." I, I,
Yeah,
I,
I have a hard time with that.
me too, because you're trying to be, again, me trying to be positive, I ended up on antidepressants because I'm trying to be a one-sided person, but it's actually like Rumi's Guest House. Wow, depression. What are you here to teach me? What are you here to show me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, anxiety, you've been these protector parts. You have wisdom. Every part of our self and emotion and symptom in the body has wisdom to share with us. But if I'm trying to be all positive, I'm literally attracting the negative pole to help me get authentic, congruent, and in the middle because
Mm.
we are meant to have the blend of light and dark, positive and negative, because we are whole, we are one. And what we see in every individual is also what we see in us in the self reflective universe. We're either just too proud or too humble. But into me see is what I see in you is in me. And then you're in reflective awareness, which is enlightened, right? But when we're in reflexive, we're back in the amygdala reflecting from our reflexes for survival, reacting, and then we're deflecting, and then we're back into pride and or too humble, and then we have to attract circumstances that keep us in these polarities and in these swings.
But
And
that brings
everything
a question. So what are these obstacles that you think people face when they're trying to live in alignment and they're having a hard time doing that?
we have so many personas and so many masks.
Yeah.
And we're processing 400 billion bits of data a second. So there's so many unconscious patterns and programs that we're not even aware of. And so again, for survival, for safety, this is what we learned will give us value. So and that's what keeps us stuck. And that's where the pain has to come in and give us feedback to recognize, like, wow, this relationship isn't in alignment, or this job isn't in alignment, and I have evolved, I have grown. And it has to get so uncomfortable because pain, often people move from pain, you know and
Mhm.
that's what
Do you
gets.
see anxiety as that signal of pain?
Anxiety is either we're living in past, right? And we're afraid it's going to happen again. So it's an invitation to go look at what you're afraid and what still is ready to be uncovered and discovered and integrated. Or we're living in the future imagined fear, again, of gaining something we don't want to have some happen, bills, aging or relate, whatever, trying to control, the cling to what we can't control, or the fear of losing a relationship, losing wealth, right? It's again, so those are anxiety is really it's actually through this process it's helping I help clients balance and neutralize those stories that are running, their stories in their mind so that they can get to a space of come, leave, leave. But either way, I've got me. Like me, don't like me, I like me, right? It's coming back and connecting to self. So we're not trying to control the uncontrollable, but we come back and connect to self so that we can have the inner stability and the external conditions, right? Like we get to not have them influence our internal state.
Yeah, I love it. If people want to know more about your work, where you're doing your work, because I know you're kind of a global, jet setter right now, how can people follow you and what you're doing if they resonate with your messaging?
My website at www.donnaparker.com is a great way. I'm also on Facebook, Donna Andrews Parker, Instagram, I think it's global.coach .d Parker.
Okay.
And so yeah, LinkedIn, Donna Andrews Parker. And
Great, and we'll have all of those links in the show notes so
beautiful.
people can have that. What's one thing that you'd like to leave the listeners with today?
Give yourself permission to create an inspiring life out of design and not duty. And take the wisdom of each moment of your life as a breadcrumb and an invitation to listen to the whispers and the feedback that life is guiding you in every moment towards your authentic self. And the more we resist, the more it'll persist. So it's just an invitation to dance with what life is bringing us versus the masses take a stance.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And when we're taking the stance, I feel like that's when anxiety really, really builds up. I feel like when we can dance, we can just let things be as they are and kind of allow life to happen in and around us.
Mm.
And to your point, for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time. I so appreciate your time and the opportunity to be here today.
Absolutely. And again, guys, it's going to be donnaparker.com, and all of the links to her LinkedIn, her Instagram, her Facebook, all of that will be in the show notes. Donna, again, thank you so much for having.
Thank you for all you're doing out there, lady. I appreciate you.
Take care.
You too.